So, Andrea, I've got a podcast idea, and I want to run it past you.
Okay, please, I'm ready. Do
okay,
it.
So it's a cooking show on a podcast, and we eat the food, and we just talk about how good it is. But now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm wondering, would that make a very good podcast? There are a lot of food podcasts, but maybe like cooking the food on the podcast is not the best idea. Perhaps somebody has some better ideas, do you think?
I mean, I want you to cook it and then eat it, and we'll call it mouth sounds.
Like it.
And so if you have an idea like that, we've got a huge opportunity to share with you. Our friends at Story Hive are giving away 10 grants of $10,000 each to aspiring podcasters in BC and Alberta. Since 2013, TELUS Story Hive has funded and supported emerging creators with mentorship and guidance from the National Screen Institute, bringing hundreds of creative Western Canadian projects to life.
And this time, they are taking to the airwaves with their inaugural podcast edition. They're looking for original nonfiction podcast concept pitches from BC and Alberta residents. Apply before December 2nd or at storyhive.com, and you could get $10,000 to get your podcast off the ground. That's storyhive.com for all the details.
But mouth sounds is Lisa's idea.
That is totally mine, and you're just gonna have to. It's gonna be good though. I got a feeling.
You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So, did either of you read the article in the New Yorker today about Emily in Paris being the ultimate in ambient TV viewing?
You mean like Amélie en Paris?
Oh, yeah. More importantly, I just saw it tweeted about, so I didn't have to read it.
Have either of you watched Emily in Paris?
First
No.
2 episodes.
No. A skinny white woman going to Paris says nothing for me. It's just
It not. Did you watch it?
No.
Oh, no, I watched 2 episodes and I didn't care at all.
Well, the article was sort of more about how Netflix is pioneering this type of television where it's like it's television you don't have to pay attention to because they know everybody is just on their phones while they're watching TV.
I feel so bad that that's true.
And so it's like it's ambient TV, like in the same way that you have like ambient music that you don't listen to in restaurants and elevators and stuff. This is like ambient TV where you don't have to think about it. There's nothing to figure out. There's no real story. It's just kind of like a exotic background somewhere in the world and like a story that doesn't really matter.
But did they also factor in sort of keeping you company too? Because I feel like there's just kind of a loneliness factor right now around life and not being able to travel and dream.
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
Not being able to travel and dream.
It got dark there, sir.
We embrace the darkness. It's fine.
I mean, just I get that. I mean, I have, and I'm probably also just frustrated by the fact that I have already an issue with my attention span. I have had for a lifetime. It's not great now, and now to know that Netflix is making things for my lack of attention span feels very frustrating.
Well, I mean, this article it was written by Kyle Chayka, and he was also mentioning like the Chef's Table and kind of like food genre of Netflix show and how he called it like functional, like they're functionally screensavers, basically. That is just like delicious food to look at and really nothing else.
I mean, so I take objection to the idea that this is a genre of television that needs to be pioneered because like this is what HGTV has been doing its entire existence. You know what I mean? Like it's, but I do like get like, I mean, that's how I watch a lot of reruns of a lot of shows that I loved. I don't ever want to watch a new show necessarily going in with that sort of distraction mindset. Like I'm not there yet. But
wouldn't
maybe
one
I will
argue?
get there. I don't know.
Wouldn't somebody argue that Hallmark's Countdown to Christmas falls into this category? I mean, that's like 40 movies, 40 Christmas rom-coms. I have a hard time believing everyone's just like
laser focused the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, but you have to figure out, is it going to be like, what job does her old small town flame have? Is he working in the barn? Does he deliver mail?
Is he trying to close her bookstore down?
Yeah, like there's so many questions. I mean, that's where you tune in. No, like that kind of stuff I put on, like if we're like putting up the tree or I'm wrapping presents, or I can see putting on like Christmassy kind of stuff. Emily in Paris, I was just like looking at it. I was like, well, this, like, I know this wasn't made for me, and that's okay. I'm fine. Now that there's a 2, though.
Well, who was it made for, though? I gotta ask. Who, like, specific, like, I even the first 2 episodes, I found the like.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's made for people who are on their phones while they're watching TV.
Okay, because if you tried to follow it, it didn't make any sense. She's not very good at her job. The job didn't make sense. It wasn't very
but it doesn't matter. There's no stakes. There's no stakes. There's no plot.
No,
there's
and then
nothing to figure out.
I was
getting a
pedicure the other day of the holidays or holidate or whatever was on at the nail salon, which is what I expected, a nail salon. Bad rom-coms. The new Netflix with Emma Roberts.
Oh, I've pitched it for our little podcast, but everyone has ignored it so far.
It was so terrible. It's so terrible. Like, I can't even, honestly, at a certain point, I was like, no, I'm sorry. I get Christmas. I even get New Year's, but no, nobody is doing Valentine's Day and then St. Patrick's Day.
No, that's true.
No, St. Patrick's Day? You got to celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
I mean, unless one of those people's last name is O'Grady, no.
And then Easter, like they were at an Easter egg hunt. They're adults. That's not. It doesn't. Anyway.
Unless they're watching Jesus Christ Superstar, you want nothing to do with Easter.
So you know how I've broken out of like being on my phone on TV a little bit is by watching Korean dramas or Japanese dramas.
You got to read.
Because you have to read the subtitles, or else you totally lose track of what's happening, and there's no point in watching it.
That is very true. That helps. Yeah,
that's really smart. I actually have I mentioned this? Like, we just have subtitles on all the time now because we
it's
just
like you're in a hospital or something.
Yeah,
like always have that.
We have it at like a very normal volume, but both of us have pretty good hearing, so we don't turn it up very loud. But like, we just found that occasionally we'd sort of, I don't know, we just miss something. And so now we have subtitles on all the time, and it's great. What a like way to keep you sort of like really engaged on like the screen, because you're watching and listening.
Yeah, perhaps that would help. Like as I said, I have a hard time with the focus as I'm pushing my skin into my head here.
I was like, yeah, you're about to literally.
Things are fine.
But yeah, anyway, this article was just like the writer just like he called it slack-jawed consumption, and like that's the future of our TV watching.
You know what?
From
couch potato to whatever. I always rail against these articles because to me there's an implication that there was a golden time at one moment where TV was great and we all were like super like engaged in it. And
don't you think that was the era before we had phones? Like everyone was on their phone. Like and people were bringing up like, oh, like sitcoms were like this, like Friends is just background TV. But like when I watched Friends in the 90s, like I actually watched TV. I wasn't distracted by other things. Like I remember actually watching TV.
Yeah, but did it deserve our attention?
Well, that's a different question.
But I mean, this is what comes up all the time about like, if you're at a show and you're taking photos, are you really like at a show, right? And I know that's a million years ago because who's been
No
to
one's
a
going
show.
to a show, yeah.
Yeah, what is a show? But like I get a little eye rolly about this whole like our attention spans are like gnats now. Cause like honestly, technology changes lots of different things, and like we also are consuming so much more information all the time. I don't know. I
agree
love
with you.
these like grand pieces that want to declare something and say and like make these huge statements, and then I do like how we all argue about it for a few weeks. That's fine, and then how like it just changes nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's like these pieces are what we're watching, what we're reading on our phones while we're watching this. Like these pieces aren't really telling us anything anyways. So it's the same kind of like, I mean, if these TV shows are slack-jawed, some of these pieces are slack-jawed too.
Whoa. Shots fired.
Spicy take. Okay, so I leave the podcast now and you guys talk about them. But I want to talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yes, and let's be honest, this was not that kind of TV that we're going to talk about. I was very focused. I managed a full 7 hours.
So I've only watched the first 2, and we're not going beyond that, right?
No, but I have watched the entire show. And what we are talking about is the Queen's Gambit.
Well, let's do it official. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This.
We are going to talk about chess, which also a dying art or about to be liberated. I don't know.
Like, do either of you know how to play chess?
Yes, I used to play it a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
I do not. Never played it.
Yeah.
I like tried to learn, I think, because it's so embarrassing. I tried to learn because of a boy when I was in high school.
Of course. Yeah, sure.
I know. It's just humiliating, right? Like, just, oh my God. But anyways, and it never took. I just was not good at it.
My brother and I used to play a lot of chess and backgammon. We really liked backgammon more in particular. That was our chosen game. I think I've discussed backgammon here before.
What is backgammon?
It's a board. It's another board game with dice, and you move little discs around.
Okay.
I'm sure there will be a Netflix show about it next year.
That's what I was thinking. Now, here's the thing, though. I think this is what I brought up. My brother and I were obsessed with, and we didn't know what Hugh Hefner did other than play backgammon. We'd heard that he had a...
Oh my God, you thought Hugh Hefner just played backgammon?
Well, we were kids. We heard that he liked backgammon, and we liked backgammon. And, we just thought, what a cool thing to be able to play backgammon with Hugh Hefner. Like, I mean, we didn't really work toward that goal. It wasn't like we were children writing him letters, please invite us to your home so we can play backgammon. But I do think if you look it up, there's a lot of stories about Hugh Hefner and his love of backgammon.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? Left turn, I did not see Hugh Hefner making a cameo in this episode. That's wild. That's wild.
Nobody does. But yes, we are talking about chess, and I do know how to play chess. And I didn't actually think it was that complicated, but I never really got into the strategy of, like, I mean, the name of the series is the Queen's Gambit, which is an opening move in chess. I didn't get into that, or as I called myself here today on our podcast, we give ourselves names, Sicilian defense, which is another famous move. I believe it might be the move you used to try and thwart the Queen's Gambit. I
mean, it all sounds like code for something that Hugh Hefner would have been into. So I
oh my God, they're moves. There.
Okay, let's I'll read our background and then if one of you wants to read the synopsis.
Okay.
The Queen's Gambit is an American drama streaming television miniseries starring Anya Taylor-Joy, based on Walter Tevis's 1983 novel of the same name. It was created by Scott Frank and Alan Scott and released on Netflix on October 23rd, 2020.
All right, well, I'll take the plot synopsis. So The Queen's Gambit is a fictional story that follows the life of an orphan chess prodigy, Beth Harmon, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, during her quest to become the world's greatest chess player while struggling with emotional problems and drug and alcohol dependency. The story begins in the mid-1950s and proceeds into the 1960s.
So one of the things that I'm very curious about, because I only watched the first 2 episodes, and that's what we're going to talk about here. But you promised me in your write-up is how is a show with so little sex so sexy? So I need a little bit more information. How sexy does it get? Tell me everything.
Well, I think that, a lot of that has to do with AG, did you watch all of it or just the 2 episodes too?
I watched all of it.
You okay? So you know then that a lot of the sexiness really comes from our heroine, Beth Harmon. She's an incredibly beautiful, smart, intense woman, and she's only ever playing men. I think there's one game at the her very first chess game when she's like,
she plays a woman.
She plays a woman. Yeah. That's it. It'll never happen again. So already you've got that dynamic, right, of a man and a woman across from each other, working on moves, strategy, right?
Just staring intensely into each other's eyes, trying to figure out what the other person's going to do.
Yes. So as was described here, it's like it's like an entire session of foreplay.
Interesting.
And well, I saw this on Twitter today, but someone was talking about how just freeing it was that, this is a story about a female character moving through a male-dominated world, but the character never is raped or sexually assaulted through the whole series.
Honestly, that really makes me so happy to hear that, because so many shows really.
But and then a lot of people in the comments were like, I was just waiting for that to happen. People were expecting that it was going to happen at some point, but it never.
The fact that she learns to play chess in the basement with the custodian, definitely.
Honestly, truly, the first 2 episodes, I was like,
no, she's just she's just allowed to get really become the best at her game. And
her sexual encounters, I know we're only talking about the first 2 episodes, but the ones that she does have, she's very much in charge of. She wants them. She's very in control of what she wants out of life.
That's good, because the whole the premise, it's we sort of open the series in the 60s and then almost immediately flashback to the 50s. And then I'm guessing we're going to catch up chronologically, but I don't know for sure. The first from the middle of episode 1 to the end of episode 2, we're moving chronologically at least.
Yeah, so I'll just read this little bit here from Vanity Fair because I thought this was quite something when we talk about the sex. So from Tracy Moore. Chess may seem dull and buttoned up to most people, but in the hands of the Queen's Gambit, it looks a lot like foreplay. 2 strangers sit incredibly close, yet silent, gazing intently to read to each other, to inquire, to intimidate. There's a great deal of masked nervousness and controlled fluster. Chess pieces are held, considered, moved tentatively or aggressively, their rhythms matching the speed of the brain commanding them. The way these matches are shot through faces, posturing, and lingering feels shockingly intimate. The constant shifting from locked gazes to averted eyes feels almost voyeuristic to intrude upon.
Well, basically, you've got a camera in my bedroom. Why do you guys even need we don't even need
But it is an interesting, I guess in a lot of sports and things too, there are just 2 people involved. But the chess, right? You are sitting very close to each other across from this board. And I am intrigued that the people who made the show saw that. I haven't read the book, which apparently is quite good. So good, in fact, that there's a backstory that goes with this, that Heath Ledger, before he died, had optioned it and was going to make it into a movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading this really great article in The Ringer about it,
Mm-hmm.
about how, you know, like he also wrote the books The Hustler and The Color of Money, because he originally was, like, when he was younger, he was into pool, but The Queen's Gambit is actually, a lot of it is based on his own life and his own experiences, because he was a chess player when he was younger too, and he played in local tournaments, and he went to, like, he at least reported on national tournaments. And so that's why, you know, people who play chess say that the chess in The Queen's Gambit seems real. Like, it's, you know, like, it's not, they gave it the thumbs up, most chess players, it seems. But yeah, like, this writer is very interesting, because it wasn't like a show that was written last year to be a Netflix show. It's like a novel that was written in the early
83,
80s.
right? Yeah.
By a man who had been, that was like late in his career. Like, he wrote The Hustler and The Color of Money like earlier in his career, which started in the 60s.
Those are like Paul Newman movies and like Tom Cruise, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like in The Color. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that by about halfway through like at first the series kept popping up on Netflix for me, and I was, okay. And then, you know, you finally start watching it. And then about halfway through, I just marveled that it ever got made, that somehow somebody said to them, you can take as long as you want. Like, you can practically do a chess game in real time here. We are going to let this show breathe. We're going to give this character, you know, so much to work with, so many dimensions. And I just was sometimes just kind of in awe that it even happened.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did, like, throughout the first, again, I'm the only one who's seen the first two, sorry guys. But like, I was struck by, like, the slowness of it, and not in a bad way.
No.
Like, not in a bad way at all. Like, I was like, this is like a positively languid pace, all things considered. But there is still so much happening, like, particularly as we see her pill addiction develop, and it gets to this, like, you know, really extreme place where, you know, she's breaking into the hospital, like, infirmary, or the orphanage infirmary, and take, like, honestly, the whole set piece of how she breaks into the infirmary, and then standing on the chair and, like, falling over. Like, it is beautifully shot and very tense and extremely disturbing.
And
I just thought,
the whole
like,
fact of drugging children in orphanages, it's pretty
Well, I mean,
disturbing.
that was based on Walter Tevis's real life. Like, he was diagnosed with, I don't know, like, some serious diseases when he was a child, and they put him in a convalescence home, and basically his parents kind of abandoned him there, and moved back to Kentucky, and he was given drugs there as a child to, like, sort of, you know, help with his diseases. And that's what he blamed later in life, is that, like, he became accustomed as a child to this, like, kind of feeling of, you know, being drugged, and he liked it. And, you know, he later had problems with, like, alcoholism. And
That would make sense.
Oh, sorry. How did they end up doing, like, a gender flip for this? Like, I'm glad that they did.
He wrote it as a woman. No,
yeah,
he wrote
I
it
don't
for
know.
a woman.
He wrote the female character, but
Cool.
Yeah,
it is based on his, like, a lot of his experiences.
Well, my grandma ended up, she was orphaned, like, very young, and before, I don't know if it was before, I don't know if it was while it was at the orphanage or after one of her aunts and uncles had, like, sort of taken her in, and her brother was sent to a different aunt and uncle. But she ended up put in, like, I think they called it, like, a sanitarium, because they thought she had TB. And so she was in a room with, like, another little girl in, like, an iron lung. And they kept her there for, like, 8 or 9 months. Like, I mean, this is, like, in addition to the time she had spent in the orphanage. And it turned out that she never had TB. Like, just wild. Anyway, I don't know if she was drugged frequently or not, but I definitely know that like people weren't always making the best choices for orphan children.
No, and I mean when she gets adopted, that's okay, good, because I couldn't remember. I think that is episode 2. That did not look like a good situation at all. Like, that is shocking that it even went ahead, right? Like that. I mean,
well, just like being like, okay, so you're 15 but pretend to be 13. I mean, this is not a girl who looks 13. This is the same young woman who's going to play her 12 years later.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? But like, I just couldn't understand it. But like, that like man seemed so creepy and awful. And then you find out like relatively quickly that the mother is deeply unwell.
Mm-hmm.
I do not see this relationship improving that dramatically going forward. But I mean, you guys have watched, so you can
You'd be
know
correct.
More. Yeah.
Let's just say it's not one of those stories where Beth moving in, brought the family together. It was the glue that was missing.
Yeah.
But I mean, she becomes closer to her mother.
She does. I mean, but we're talking about the father is not.
Yeah.
Like that.
I just figured he's gone forever, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, you'll find out.
All right. Ooh, exciting. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
But it just, you can, obviously there couldn't have been like, why was that allowed, that adoption? I mean, that was not a happy home. There was so much substance abuse. There was so many problems. But I guess if you were drugging children for years,
Well, there were
Not
also
a
a lot of adoptions that were basically just like people wanted hired help and they didn't want to pay them.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was, and particularly if you're like a kid over the age of like 8, you're so much less likely to get adopted. And yeah, it's just brutal.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say that offers up a whole other development to the show. And one of the other things to bring up, which I also think is another big reason that everyone really loved this show, was the fashion and the style.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It is really incredible. And there was a piece in The Guardian all about the style, just saying the Queen's Gambit is, wait a second here. It's also a show, they say, about loneliness, addiction, the Cold War, and gender bias. Mainly, though, it is about the clothes. This is not reductive. It is the whole point, according to Netflix. Beth's mid-60s costumes, designed by Gabrielle Binder, The Lives of Others, and inspired by Christian Dior and Cardin, appear alongside Princess Diana from The Crown in a virtual exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum in New York. Still, the costumes are faithful to the period. Shift dresses are borrowed from Cardin, fluted sleeve tops and short skirts inspired by Pucci and Biba, and a go-to jersey t-shirt based on the André Courget's. In a neat reflection of our video call world, the clothes are designed to be viewed over a chessboard, because that is where the camera spends most of its time. We wanted interesting necklines, something that stood out but didn't overwhelm, Binder told the Golden Globes last month. I love that much detail.
That much detail, and it really pays off. Like, I even just like when she enters her adoptive home for the first time, and that tableau of like all of the like blue and like mustard yellow or gold or whatever is happening.
That is
like
quite an over-designed house. That is.
But I loved everything about it. Like that is like a dream, like character room.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that like some of the rooms also on Netflix, but like To All the Boys I Loved Before, like that room has so much character and so much life in it. It like I love that Netflix for the most part really wants things to look beautiful and engage on this level. Mm-hmm. But like that to me, like I mean that would speak to sort of like supporting to go back to the beginning of the episode, that guy's piece about just sort of like things that look nice to keep you company. But I'm like deeply compelled when things look that beautiful. Like I want to be in it more. I want to pay attention to it more. So That I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, I think he was drawing a distinction between like prestige TV, like the Queen's Gambit, and like the Crown or whatever, and then like whatever Emily in Paris is.
Yeah, fair. Okay, never mind. You're right.
But that's
Fair.
an interesting.
Fair.
It's interesting to think about the sequencing there, because Emily in Paris first came out, and then the Queen's Gambit, and I think I was a little bit dismissive in my head just because I just watched this girl, wandering around Paris. Do I want to watch some girl wander around a chessboard? Like it felt, I don't know, in my head.
Yeah, you've only got time for so much lady television.
We know I
that.
do, right? But I had this impression that there was something similar to
I know. I get it.
And it wasn't at all. It was only when all of a sudden people started to talk about it, I went, okay, I guess I'm going to have to give this a chance, and found out that it wasn't any of that. Like I did not have my phone in hand because even without, like, I didn't have subtitles to read, but I wanted to see every single thing. Even to when she goes to like the pharmacy, and just the way that pharmacy looked and the street looked and the house, like there wasn't anything that wasn't thought about.
I love the idea of living in a world where you go into a pharmacy that has 6 magazines and smack in the middle, chess review.
I kept thinking about that too. Was that a big seller?
Yeah. Like, how did you not have to go to a specialized bookstore to get I mean, I love it. I don't want to quibble.
No,
but
I know.
I want to know
either.
everything about whether it was like a huge magazine at the time.
And one of the things I tweeted out was watching Beth's first tournament. I was just like, let's think about this for a minute. Beth plays her very first chess tournament and wins on the same day she gets her first period. Let's talk about people who are strong. And don't tell me it's some goddamn basketball player. I'll tell you. It's having to use your head and not even be aware that this thing has happened to you. And she didn't even know really what it was. Remember in the...
Yeah. I felt for her so much because I have done that thing where you're just like, something's not right. And then you stand up and then you're like, I left blood all over this chair. I'm in a public place.
Yeah.
Well, this is awkward.
I guess I'll just stay here forever.
Like one time I was talking to, again, a boy that I liked, and I stood up and realized, I was like, I've got to go to the washroom. And then I stood up and glanced down and he wasn't paying attention. So I was like, and then I like kneeled on the chair very casually and very calmly and very collectedly and was just like, yeah, you know what? I don't have to go to the bathroom that bad, actually, now that I've stood up.
Redistribution here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna just shift a little, and then eventually I was able to like sneak my bag onto the chair. But then I had to try and like sneak back a like napkin with water on it, and then try and get blood out of an unsanded wooden chair. Do you know how that's not possible? Like, no wonder I ended up interested in like CSI technology. Yeah. No, I just left the blood stain. Couldn't do anything about it. That Starbucks really got a piece of me.
Wow. I feel for you very hard on this particular.
But yeah, just to say, relatable content. I love every TV show that has given us a relatable period scene. Like, I May Destroy You, Queen's Gambit. Appreciate them so much. Like, I want more and more of this all the time.
You almost have to, and I did not watch all of Emily in Paris, so I don't know if this comes up, but it's almost as if by not bringing it up, you're doing a disservice to a show about a woman, because this happens and this changes things.
Yeah, and I mean, we know that like not all women have periods, but like we know that a lot of them do, and like
yes,
it's
exactly.
just like just acknowledging that is like it's like with advertising for pads turning away from like the blue liquid to a normal red liquid because they couldn't show like you can get away with showing violence but no sex, and you can get away with showing a blue liquid on a pad but not a red one. Like all of it is just like hierarchies of insanity.
Yes, it's a marvel that Beth made it anywhere, really, in some ways. I mean, the way, and it's such a peculiar, like when you're watching it happening in front of you, and because even though it's set in the 1950s and 60s, I would argue it's not that much different now, is that idea that women, for some unknown reason, couldn't play chess. Like, where did that come from? Like, how is that a thought? Like, literally, you're sitting at a board moving pieces. What particular part of her physiology would not be able to play chess? Rhetorical question, I know. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, ladies be dumb.
Yeah.
And did you know?
So I'm just looking it up.
Our small lady brain.
I'm just looking it up, and there are currently 37 female players who hold the title of Grandmaster.
Well, I mean, yeah. Again, I there was always a like weird assumption when we were kids that like boys would want to learn chess, but girls would want to learn checkers. And I have carried that resentment and that sexism with me for so long.
It's interesting because I didn't, I haven't read the book, and Andrea, you know more about it than I do, but there is something about the fact that custodian did teach her when he kind of felt like she didn't, this wasn't for her. And to think about what could have not happened if he had, gone through with that idea.
I mean, she always had to fight for like...
She did, but eventually not with him anymore, right? It was like he wasn't fighting that particular part of her anymore, that she was a female. It was an initial, and then it ended. And once he was in, she was able. And then when everyone else found out about it, they were able to like support her. But there was a moment where you think this could have gone a whole other way.
Well, like, have you, I don't, like, I mean, this show is set, again, in the 50s. I mean, even, I can definitely think in my lifetime, and I was not born in the 50s, but I can definitely think in my lifetime, at some point, many people, like, just presuming that I would not be interested in something because of my gender. And, like, because of my gender expression. Oh, yeah, music, like, all the time.
You don't have to go that far.
All three of us, like, work in an industry that, like, is... has catered to and been predominantly all about, what white men want, and thinking
what white men play, what they want to listen to, how they write about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like just like mythologizing male genius all the time, like blah. Sorry, I showed you my whole tongue there, and my back teeth, and I'm so sorry.
Exciting.
It just made made me so mad, but I basically then welcomed you inside my mouth virtually, and that's not cool.
It was fair. It was almost like that emoji that's barf coming out of his mouth. So very, very fair. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. And it just, one of the things that, and I feel bad because I'm just going to say something that goes beyond your 2 episodes. Sorry to say.
Is it a spoiler? Should I just bow out and like come back?
Are you going to watch it all?
Yeah, of course I am.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if you're like, I didn't know. Do I make you plug your ears?
Yeah, I don't know. Do I sing at this point? Like what?
Okay, plug your ears and I'll just say it here.
Okay, I'm going to remove my headset for a second.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. What I wanted to say is that there was this underlying theme about teamwork, which is what Benny says about the Russians and how they work together as a team and Americans don't. And I really admired how the show by the end was about everyone trying to help her, not for like sexual fate. Yeah, they liked her. Who wouldn't, right? She was beautiful and interesting, right? But by the end, all of them had abandoned all of that. And it was this team effort of helping her. And I think that's what really, to me, made that show go in a direction I wasn't expecting, which really helped, which was great about the gender issue. By that time, it didn't matter. And they were all just there for her. And I really loved that. Yeah.
I mean, like how many shows or movies have you ever seen where there's a team of men helping a woman win a sport or, succeed at something?
Exactly. So. Yeah. And I also liked how that sort of anti-American sort of spirit too, because the Russians were a lot more gracious with her and her, abilities. So I really like that. Anyway, you can come back.
I was like, are you going to welcome me back to the show at any point? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. You can listen to the episode after you've watched all 7.
Yep.
I need to tell you something that I don't know if either of you noticed, but you won't be able to unsee after I mention this. But Harry,
the character
Harry the person like Beth defeats in the first tournament, and later they become friends. Harry Beltic.
Yeah.
Yep.
The character, he's played by Harry Melling, who played Dudley Dursley in the Harry Potter.
Oh, it is
film
him.
series.
Oh, okay.
Harry's brother Dudley.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the guy who plays Benny is the guy from little kid from Love Actually too.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know that. Wow, it's a couple of child actors who are now adults that you're just like.
Wait,
right away I would. Yeah.
Is Benny the handsome one that she defeats in the episode 2, and he's like, keep your
No.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. Benny's someone we meet in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
He's
fair.
a big grand master, but it's the kid from Love Actually. It's Liam Neeson's son.
Oh yeah. He was also in Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Maybe, yeah.
Tall,
All right,
skinny
yeah.
white guy with
yeah.
blonde.
Yeah. I hung around with Hodor and all that. Yeah.
There
that
you go.
crew.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
I did not know that. Like at first, I knew that I recognized her from somewhere, but I didn't know that it was Marielle Heller who plays Beth's mother. And I just like, she's such a talent.
And she's a writer and a director. And
I love her so much. And
Well, I'm just looking at it right now. She directed "Can You Ever Forgive Me," which is a fantastic movie.
Yeah. We never did that. We should have.
We should. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go back to that at some point as a
on
tribute
its
to
third
Marielle Heller.
anniversary. Or fifth.
Yeah.
It's coming up on its second anniversary.
There we go. Yeah.
Look, we can just do it any time now. We've abandoned time because it's a pandemic. It's fine.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, like I just like the thing that I was so fascinated by in like watching her in episode 2, where we really get to know her so well, and we see how quickly she's just barely been keeping it together, and you know how it just sort of like kind of almost slides out of her fingers. And then when she sort of like gets excited about the idea that her new adopted child is a chess prodigy, and that maybe she can like take this show on the road with her.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's a real worrisome stage mom vibe happening like immediately, but like it also makes me feel so happy that she seems to have this like new purpose other than just being
that's
tragically like
underused
upset.
And sad, and they don't really get into it, but it does sound like she had a child that died, but they never really, which I guess she did, but they never really explore specifically what happened.
Well, and I thought it was so like it was so interesting to sort of like I feel like we do learn a lot about them, even though there's not that much that's said, because like when we find out that the husband like wanted her to adopt this child to be her companion, because he's not that interested in apparently any of that at all, and like just like the sort of great disruption to Beth's understanding of what her role in that house is in that moment, you know, like she thinks that she's sort of been adopted into this, you know, unusual family, and that the husband hates her, but I think it's actually like it's just so much more complicated than that. Like he's utterly indifferent to her. He hates his wife.
Did you notice that scene where he's coming home from some trip and she unexpectedly, and she's vacuuming in her gown, and she just like kind of freaks out and runs upstairs and, you know, wants to do her hair and makeup and put on a proper clothes like that? To think of like the 60s or the 50s being like that is just outrageous.
Well, it didn't look like it was hard for June Cleaver. I'll just say that much. Okay. I didn't see June complaining. She had the dinner ready. She had everything done. You know,
but can you imagine though, like just being like, just freaking out if your husband ever sees you like not fully.
Do you think that's so
done.
unusual? I bet you that. Gosh, I don't know.
You mean today?
Deeply unusual to me.
Well, I mean, I don't.
I told you about Carlos attending to my labial boil.
Yeah, okay,
so
well,
I
that.
mean...
No. Say that.
Like,
No, I wasn't saying like I think exactly that scenario, but I think that pressure for women to still feel very beautiful and to make this some sort of presentation, like when you see these awful shows
For their
about how-
husbands, though? Like, I think that people
Yeah.
do that for themselves, or they want to look good if they're, going out in public or something, but I don't know.
I feel like in our culture, there's still like it's not quite that, but I still feel like this kind of that's a is not like people wouldn't admit it, but I bet it's something that they would. We could,
I
maybe
hope not. It
I
depresses
hope
the
to
hell out of
God
me.
not. No,
Yeah,
yeah.
it depresses the. I actually I think more often that there's like a lot of pressure, particularly on like young new moms to like glam it up
bounce
for
back
other
your
young
figure
moms.
right away.
No, but
Yeah.
but glam it up for other moms, like that sort of competitive, like perfect Pinterest mommy kind of stuff,
Yummy
where, like,
mummies, they're called.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I just
yeah.
like I don't think that's actually about husbands very much at all. I think it's about like it's sort of the patriarchy making it difficult for women to see each other as potential allies instead of competition.
Well, I remember reading, it was like really gross that when there was that Ben Affleck scandal with the nanny, that somebody was saying how there's a real competition for the women in LA to hire the most attractive nanny.
Ew.
What?
Yeah.
What? This like reason number 7,000,004 that I never want to either have children or move to LA.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those moments where I'm reading it going, I don't understand this at all. But,
Well, also like maybe like I think the other crime outside of the patriarchy probably is like heteronormativity. Like just
Ease up.
just all stop. Just all
yeah, no, I'm not going to disagree with any of these things, but I do wonder if that's why the show kind of resonates as well, because sometimes we watch these shows and we want to be very like, oh my God, we're not like this anymore. But even thinking about the gender imbalance you said there's only 37 Grandmaster women chess champions. That's not a lot, right? That does not make you go, oh, well, this is all open. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like you watch these shows and you want desperately for it to seem like it's like what Mars looks like, but it's not enough like Mars.
Yeah, like that we haven't made as much advancement as we could in terms of like equality and equity. I mean, obviously I do think that's true because we're still having a lot of these conversations and they don't feel as far off as they should. But like I think about something like the marvelous Mrs. Maisel and how honestly horrified I was like in the first 2 episodes, I think, where she like daily measures her thighs.
Oh, yeah.
How about when she
remember
wakes
that?
up to fix her face because she makes
Yes.
the blinds come into her
Yes.
eyes first? Yeah.
Yes. No, like, and all of that, like, and that feels very rooted in a very specific 50s sort of style. And I just like, yes, if that is something that people are still doing, I weep, honestly. Like actually, you know what? I don't just weep. I get mad.
No, I do too. I do too. But like I said,
I hope
really
it's
don't-
not. I hope
I
it's
really
not,
don't want to
but-
watch the show just going, oh, well, that's over. That's the past. You know what I
No,
mean?
of
Like,
course.
it always seems more complicated. And I think that's why we're kind of drawn to it as well.
Yeah. I did find it a couple times it lost my interest. And I think it's because there was so much chess. And so much like, and not even the actual act of playing chess. It was like the imaginary chess on the ceiling and all of that CGI stuff. I would love to hear from both of you about whether that continues to be such a central theme.
Well,
Chess?
I just like
No, not chess, but like the CGI, like,
No.
okay, good.
Well, I think from like reading about the author of the book, like he he struggled as a writer. Like he wrote those like 2 books that became popular and were made into movies and like early on in his career. And then he had this like long period of really struggling and like doing kind of odd, like not doing non-writing related jobs to get by. And I like part of it, I think, is like it's reflecting his own fears of because like he was a secret alcoholic who would drink at night so nobody would know and then go to his job in the morning. And he secretly worried about, you know, like, is his dependence on alcohol dulling his, like, whatever's making him sharp to be a great writer and to make him be able to write those 2 stories that people wanted to read.
I did see some discussion, and I didn't feel this way, that someone said that they didn't like the fact that the stories seemed to imply that her genius was dependent on the drugs and alcohol. But my feeling on the show was that those were demons she was fighting. Yeah. And it was holding her back from being better. That if she could clean herself right up, that she would have a clearer head. So I was surprised that somebody thought that that was the take.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No. Yeah, in the 2 episodes I saw, I don't agree with that either.
No, I don't think that. I definitely feel like she's fighting it and recognizing that it's.
Yeah, so like I think the CGI is just like her fighting her demons. So it does come up every now and then, but it's not like overbearing throughout the show, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say if the chess is bothering you, you might not want to continue because it's not like you get less chess.
No, I like the actual act of chess. I don't enjoy the make-believe chess.
Oh, okay. And her outfits playing chess get better?
Great.
So
I love it. I just,
And the travel gets a lot better.
Well, I'm living vicariously any way I can, even if it's time traveling back to 1960s Russia, whatever, I'll take it. Wherever it wants to take me, I will take it.
I agree. So I guess our final question.
Oh, wait, hold on. Can we give a shout out to Jolene?
Yes.
Oh, please. Jolene. Well, yes. Because Jolene does come back again for your.
Yeah, but what a great character.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm only in episode 2, obviously, but I was hoping it's not the last we see of her because I love her so much and we don't get to spend enough time with her at all.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't play a huge role in it, but we do see her again.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she plays a key role.
Yeah.
All right, then good. Well, then fine. Fine. It pops then. No, I was gonna say it pops anyways, but pops. I am looking forward to finishing the rest of it.
Yeah, and it really pops.
Unfortunately, I did read though that there probably isn't going to be a season 2 because there was no extra book, and and there's been no kind of like idea on. I mean, the actor Anya was asked about that, and she said never say never. But right now, there's no 2.
You know, when you get one really great season, I have started to think like that's okay. Good.
Yeah.
Wait, well, you're ahead.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think it's our natural inclination to assume.
Yeah. Well, because we assume that it made money, and so people want it to make more money.
Yeah.
And yet we have a season 2 of Emily in Paris to look forward to.
Yeah, hey, where's my phone? Yeah.
I mean, Netflix canceled Glow. I don't really have good words for them for the most part right now. But
so here, look, I can just all right, there we go.
I would rather eat 14 croissants, pound 17 espressos, and then just bury myself under a bunch of really stabby tiny Eiffel Towers than have to watch Emily in Paris.
All right, so there's a review there. We didn't actually do it, but yeah.
Look, I never even saw it. That's terrible of me, but I stand by it. Fine. We love to leave our episodes on something we recommend. AG, do you want to go first?
Sure. Actually, we talked about this early in the podcast, and Lisa put it in the outline for us. But I wanted to recommend people check out thequeeninthecrown.com, the virtual exhibit that is at the Brooklyn Museum, because it's just this really cool interactive website where you look at the outfits and the costumes from the Queen's Gambit and the Crown, and they tell you like the history of it, or they interview the costume designer, and you just learn like what the research that went into it and what the idea was behind it, and it's just gives you this whole new appreciation for costume designers and how much work goes into it. And with the Queen's Gambit so fresh in your mind, you know all these outfits, and so like towards the end when we see her in that just beautiful all white outfit, and the costume designer is talking about how it's sort of reflective of the white queen in chess, and that's what they were trying to design. And so it's amazing to sort of wrap your head around everything that goes into costume design.
I can't believe you just told me that she wears a white outfit at the end of the
Spoiler.
series. AG. Okay, no, that sounds great. Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, so there, I have a subscription to the Acorn channel still. I believe I talked about my saga of having that British procedural canceled and on Netflix. Yeah, okay, so I still have Acorn, and they just started a new show called The Southwesterlies, which now
it's just like a series of wind crimes.
Just wind crimes, yeah, breaking wind at my back, all the winds. So it is just one of those stories that we've all seen a million times, but during the pandemic, I think we're all wanting to see familiar things. So Kate works for a energy company in Norway, but they want to build a wind farm on this small seaside village in Ireland. And it's her job to go there and convince the townsfolk to get the wind farm. But of course, she goes there and she meets the eccentric characters, and and she's got some history there and some people. And we have watched this show a million times, and I'm happy to spend time in that world. Different, like, as much as I'm a city girl, I'll always want to hang out in Stars Hollow. I'll always want to hang out in Sicily, Alaska with Northern Exposure. All those sorts of fake stories about the eccentric, cool people in small towns. The Southwesterlies has all of that.
Perfect.
I'm still waiting for someone to bring back Northern Exposure. Just like it's not available to watch it anywhere.
What happened? What is that?
They've been talking about it recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but they have. It's been talked about a lot recently.
I remember my friend of mine had the DVD collection, and it came in a parka, and I borrowed it. He lent it to me, but he was very every day was like, "Are you done? Are you done?" Like he was so nervous. Which I don't blame him now, because
it's impossible
rare
to see. Yeah.
Those DVDs were gold, man. I'm going to recommend a musician. She's from Vancouver. She's 17 years old. Her name is Molly Annell, and I really cannot get over. I mean, I know that I shouldn't dwell on people's ages, but Molly is extraordinarily talented. Her new songs are produced by Louise Burns, who has been a guest on this podcast for our Spice Girls episode, and who we all know and love. Her music, and Molly Annell I think she's going to be really huge, so you should go listen to her music, mollyannell.com.
What kind of music is it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I should tell you. Yes. She does sort of dream pop, electro, R&B, kind of some piano ballads here and there. So it's very contemporary, but it's just it's stuff that when you listen to her first EP that she produced, recorded, and wrote herself. She was 14 years old.
Yeah, wow.
She's ridiculously talented, and you listen to that EP and you're like, this sounds like a very strong offering from a 25 or 30-year-old. And it's just extraordinary.
Well, that sounds good. I did hear some of it, and it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's great. So thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. And you can hang out with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. You could rate and review us 5 stars. 5 stars.
And thanks, as always, to Andrea Gin as our producer and our co-host during the pandemic times. And hey, go play some chess. Get out there. Or in there, I guess would be.
Either
Play
way,
chess. Either way.
pull your Queen's Gambit on your Sicilian defense.
Woo.
Wow, look at you.
Whoa.
You got the parlance down.
There you go.
Oh, this is the way I flirt now. Okay.
Of course, it takes 5 hours, but you know.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. I wanted to try tantric too, so cool. This is a good pandemic move. All right. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.